On today's episode, Josh and I are back here to talk about the NBA trade deadline, where we're going to have featured guest Tyler James on to discuss some thoughts that we've had time to simmer on with the trade deadline recently last Thursday. All that and a lot of fun next.
Welcome back to the Two Pointers podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm Trevor.
And this week we're welcoming our special guest, Tyler James, NBA from the All Ball Network. Tyler, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Tyler. Well, we are, like Josh said, excited to have you. And we always like to do this with every guest we've had on in the past, some of our friends of the show. So tell us a little about yourself. Tell us about your role in the NBA community. Obviously, anything about you that might be pertinent to our listeners, anywhere to find you, etc.
Sure. Yeah. So there's some similarities already. I was born in North Carolina. I know that's your guys' state, so I got some ties there. I have lived in New England most of my life, so a huge Celtics fan. I honestly started podcast. This is going to age me a little bit, which is going to be surprising. I honestly started podcasting before it was really a thing. I have my first podcast ever in 2007 when I was, still in high school or, back in the day. So I kind of been doing it ever since then, off and on. Big Celtics fan. Got a couple Celtics websites, and I have the All Ball Network and All NBA site, and really just fan sites. I just build those accounts and do them on the side, and with them focus on the Celtics, but also the full league as a whole. So because even though I'm a Boston fan, I try to keep track of everything, and I've just been doing that for years now, and it's been going really well, and I really like it. So yeah, North Carolina born, New England raised, and I think it's a good fit with you guys on this show because of that.
Josh, the burning question I was going to ask him just before we get started is why Carolina? Like, you were born here, we don't know how long. Carolina's a big deal, yada yada yada.
What do you
I'm a
mean
big
why?
fan. I'm a big fan of State, obviously the red team
Yeah.
in Raleigh, or in North Carolina. But
What do
why,
you mean
why
why
Carolina?
Carolina? He made the right choice.
I get it. I get what you're going to say, but I just want to know why. I always like to ask
Sure.
origin stories of fandoms. That's all.
Sure. Yeah. No. So I remember it was fifth grade. We were at Olympia Sports. I bought a pair of North Carolina shorts because those were the only ones available. And I went home later, and they were on TV. And I was just like, I got some roots there. That's my team. And this was like the Ed Cota days. He was one of my favorite point guards to ever play. He was a really good playmaker and assist guy. And then I followed him ever since. So yeah, it was really random, but I think I chose right for sure.
Josh knows it's my weakness is like origin stories of fandom. It's like my one thing I want to know about
Yeah.
every guest. So, all right, Josh, where do we begin? Trade deadline. We've discussed going through winners, losers, and I think right now I have to know the burning question on your mind. I'm going to start with Tyler, though. I'm going to get to Josh in a few minutes on his. I have a feeling we know where he might lean winner, loser wise, but. Up front, let's roll winners, losers. Let's start with loser. I think it'd be more fun. Tyler, what's your biggest loser or one of your biggest losers at the trade deadline so far?
I mean, I'm going to be biased and stick with my favorite team's rival in the Lakers. I think they're one of the biggest losers just because they're a mess right now. I know AD, LeBron, and Westbrook haven't played that many games together, but I just never really liked the fit of Westbrook. I didn't think there was any chance they'd find a suitor to trade him to. I didn't think that was going to be likely at all, and they didn't do anything. They really didn't do anything at all. So I would definitely say they're the biggest losers.
Josh, please speak first.
I fully agree with that. I got to admit, like when I was going into the segment, I wasn't even thinking about the teams that weren't involved in the trade deadline at all.
It's a
But I
great
guess
point.
the only sense where the Lakers have been involved was trading away Rajon Rondo back in early January. That was the last trade involvement they had, trading away probably a better point guard that would have
Into the
helped them
Cavs.
out.
Yep.
Lakers are in a really tough spot, and I think it's a spot that can only be saved by maybe a healthy and consistent Anthony Davis.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I I'm not going to relish any thoughts on the Lakers today because they didn't make any moves. I do like the angle. I appreciate that being touched on because I just don't understand what people thought they were going to move. They weren't willing to move the 2027 pick. They weren't willing to really do anything with THT. Obviously, I don't think its value is anywhere where people think it is or should be or maybe is not. And then, of course, the only suitor for Russ would have been like Houston for like John Wall. So, and I'm not sure that's any better or worse. So, It's a good one. I mean, loser big time, clearly.
Yeah, the Lakers are in a tough spot because they don't exactly have any assets outside of LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
And their pick if they keep losing, but that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, they'd have to lose a lot more. And at the end of the day, it reminds me of the Rams, who, as we're recording this on Valentine's Day, didn't introduce that earlier. But the day after the Super Bowl, the Rams went all in and won it. And I'm not sure there's obviously a talent comparison. I'm just saying it's another LA team that went completely all in for a championship. I'm not sure it gets it done, but yeah, the trade deadline, you have to do something. And I'm not shocked, but at the same time, I'm at least a little disappointed in Palinka, knowing that his job might be in jeopardy after not doing anything at the deadline. So, yeah, very intriguing to see how the Lakers adjust here in the buyout market. Is what I would say moving forward for them as a positive. Josh, let me hear a loser from you.
Sacramento Kings
We're
are
just
my
doing this
biggest
early.
loser.
We're just getting this out of the way. Got it.
Gosh, I always want good for the Kings because they've just kind of been a downtrodden franchise for so long. But they traded away probably the only player in their franchise who was having interviews in the offseason about how he was going to stick it out with Sacramento, stay there forever, change the culture, make it a winning team, winning culture. He was clearly the best guy to build the team around, I thought. And then they trade him away. Like, you trade Halliburton, who they said like he was crying in the locker room finding out he'd been traded away from the Kings. The Kings making the decision to trade away the most invested player they've had in years for Domantas Sabonis, who's a good basketball player, but is this going to lead to the Kings winning it all? Probably not.
No, and I think that's a one great point. Yeah, he was crying. You're right. And has anybody ever cried about leaving Sacramento Kings? I don't think
exactly.
So. And that's really terrible to hear because he was invested and they don't get that. And I just have one question for you guys. Do you think the Kings are like the Detroit Lions of the NBA, where players go to die, or are they not on that level yet?
100%. That is the perfect comparison in the NBA. Unless you give me,
I think they're worse than the Lions.
Okay, that's a good way to.
Well, I mean, look at Stafford. Just went to Stafford 1 year with another team. He's winning the Super Bowl. So Lions are pretty bad, but yeah.
It's just to me, it's the mismanagement. I feel like the Lions tried to put some guys around to win some things.
Yeah,
the Kings seem to be actively avoiding winning at all costs.
The Kings thing is very unfortunate because it's a matter of dysfunction at every level, and I have always been on record to say that like you can live with dysfunction at some levels of the organization, but truly a winning championship. Look at every championship team in the last, let's just say 25 years for fun. Every championship team, if there was a form of dysfunction, it was handled prior to that championship run. You can get away with some. You're not going to win a championship like this, but you can get away with, like, say, a mid-tier point guard and then another star, right? You can get away with a GM that might have made a few idiotic moves, but he got the 2 stars right that won him the championship. You can get away with an owner, sort of, being an idiot, and the Kings just have dysfunction at every level. So, like, that's the part that kills me. Is I think the Lions is a great example, but yeah, it's just miserable. The one point I took away from the Halliburton thing, though, that was really interesting, that yes, you have this guy who's so invested in stuff. I get it. The potential's there. He's not, the best player in this trade, though, at least talent-wise. I think Sabonis right now is a better player. I think people were discrediting the fact that Halliburton was traded for, he's like, oh, the best, why would they get rid of him? Obviously, that's dumb they got rid of him. But the Sabonis thing is interesting. Like, obviously, I don't see Fox and Sabonis playing together. But the Kings got the, quote, best player right this moment in the trade. Sabonis is an all-star. I think that's slightly disrespectful to Sabonis. That's my only point of feedback. Otherwise, yeah, we're completely in agreement. The Kings are idiots. It is what it is.
Absolutely, and I think it's just such a tough move because of what we mentioned before. Halliburton was so invested in the team, and guys like De'Aaron Fox, or for most we've heard, like they want to get out of there as soon as possible. So I think that's why it was kind of like a slap in the face to Kings fans because they're like, we finally got this guy. But I think Sabonis and Fox, that'll be a good pick and roll combo. And let's be honest, they're doing this move to try to get that playing game and try to get some playoff games in Sacramento. That's the only reason they did it.
I'm glad you said it because I was about to. They did this thinking that they are going to win, or get into the play-in right now.
Yep, that's the only goal.
Mind-boggling. Obviously, they were able to keep Barnes and Holmes and a couple other pieces, but it's Hield got moved in this.
Don't forget about Hield. Yeah,
this.
Yeah, no, he's never been on a winning team, and he could be something.
This is the same Buddy Hield that the Lakers, instead of trading for, they traded for Russell Westbrook, and we saw how
Yep.
that worked out. So I guess the question is like, what's next for the Kings? I don't know if we have time for that necessarily, but does Mitchell work with Fox long term? Do they even care that those two are not going to be long term pieces because Fox is gone in 3 years? I just don't know. I'm just confused, Josh, entirely. Every bit of this is confusing.
Yeah,
You sound the same
the
way.
Kings' immediate future is maybe a play-in game in Crypto.com arena with the Los Angeles Lakers. Um,
Generous.
sorry, I had
That's
to
generous.
make that joke. After that, yeah, Fox clearly isn't bought in long term. Maybe they get Sabonis to buy in and can find somebody else to build around him, but he's 26. He's an incredible piece if you're going to really be there in the next couple of years. But if you're looking at 5, 6 years to really get somebody brought up, I feel like they could end up wasting some of that time for him.
All right. For the sheer sake of Sacramento Kings fans, we're going to move on to the next loser because I just don't know how much we could drag them through the mud for another 10 minutes. Josh, who is your biggest loser at the NBA trade deadline that's not the Sacramento Kings?
Wait, why do I have to give another one?
I thought we were doing one each. Is that not what we said?
He
I
did.
gave that one. Who's
He
your
did
loser?
I did the Lakers. Yeah, you're up.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting we did the Lakers who didn't make a move. That's the part
Yeah,
that threw me off.
gotcha.
My biggest loser, um, actually, funny enough, I had Kings fans. That was actually my big, no joke, that was my biggest loser at the trade deadline was Kings fans. But
Fans. That's correct.
Kings fans, period.
It's a bonus.
If I had to give you a team, I think you guys eliminate. I think there was one big, like this token here. I think it's Dallas. I understand the Kristaps Porzingis thing. We can just break this down, but like, he's the best player in that deal. And yes, they aren't working together, but Dallas is winning games. They're winning games convincingly right now with Jalen Brunson, Luka Doncic, and Kristaps Porzingis. And you get back, the sideline stories aside with Cuban and Dinwiddie, you're getting back Spencer Dinwiddie, like who I'm not saying is like this bad player for Porzingis. I'm just not sure that this fit is perfect. So I think if I had time to really like give y'all a good one, I couldn't because the Kings were kind of this token example. I think it's Kristaps Porzingis specifically, but the Mavericks as well. Thoughts, Tyler?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I just never thought him and Kristaps and Luka worked. They just didn't work, and obviously Porzingis was injured all the time. And maybe if he wasn't injured all the time, they could have worked to a 1-1A or Batman and Robin type deal. But he couldn't stay on the court, and they have been playing great lately. And I just think they have so much confidence in Luka, and they just were taking any return they could get. But I don't know. I would have just stood pat if I were if I were the Mavericks. I probably would have just ran this thing out. The deal was okay for him, but I kind of would have just gone with what you had already. That's my thoughts, at least.
Yeah, that was probably the deadline day trade that shocked me the most was Porzingis heading to Washington. It's not something I saw coming, despite the fact that I've been kind of ranting about the fact that Luka and Kristaps can't win when they're on the court at the same time for the past several months. That the Mavericks are great when it's just one of them there, but when they're both there, something goes wrong. And now I guess we're just kind of at the end of that saga where Porzingis has been shipped off again, having not worked out to a new franchise. But at the same time, I'm wondering if you're the Wizards, what are you doing?
Blowing it up.
Because Beal's a free agent at the end of this year, and he's
Yeah,
out for the
he's
season.
out for the year. Yeah.
So, like,
And
what's Washington really doing here?
You're blowing it up. I 100%. I think
Yeah.
Washington is leaning towards blowing it up completely. And not that they haven't already. They thought the Beal thing with the adjustment after Westbrook was possible. You got to realize, like, for those you two and also the listeners who might not understand the implications of this, Beal is up for a 5-year, $230 million max. I'm going to repeat that number.
Which he's taking.
$230 million.
Yeah, he's taking that.
He's taking that, but the Wizards, if they really
Nice
want
46 a year.
if the Wizards want to understand their value for the next 5 years, they really need to consider not giving him that. But then you're like,
Agreed.
oh, well, you let him walk. Well, why didn't you just trade him at the deadline? Well, the injury just
Celtics.
seems like a really weird timing. Yeah, right. The
Yeah.
injury retool for next year.
Yeah.
I think there's two Mavericks implications that are maybe getting overlooked because the trade deadline is something you kind of look at and you go, okay, yes, right now we're going to look at, and I have a couple of questions for you guys based on like if your finals predictions. I'd like to get yours, Tyler, in a little bit, but did obviously that's something people look at. Does that change the landscape of the finals coming up? But I think there's two implications for Dallas that are big, that are a bigger deal up front. Is what are they aiming for in this, which is clearly a 2023 free agency, which nothing goes wrong when Dallas prepares a bunch of money for free agency, right? That's never went wrong. And second of all, I guess you will let Jalen Brunson walk now, correct? Because you have Spencer Dinwiddie, you have a guy that's a similar playmaker, even though Jalen Brunson's been awesome and way better. But like, this is two implications for their offseason. Is Brunson may walk now, and the 2023 free agency they're going to have at a lot of money. Davis Bertans is going to be the only major contract on their books.
And don't forget that they just gave Dorian Finney-Smith an extension,
That's true. Yeah, it has a 2 days ago now,
which
4 year
was
50.
an
So
interesting move considering he's a great role player, but his stat line does not exactly jump off the page at you.
not 4 year 50. That's a Mark Cuban contract for sure.
What's Spencer's contract like? Because I don't
I
really like the return, to be honest with you, for the Wizards. I mean, for Dallas. What Spencer and
I would love it
Bertans?
for either side. I mean, I guess if you're
Yeah,
Dallas,
I don't like the trade at all, to be honest with you. But yeah,
Spencer
I don't know
and
what
Terrence
Spencer's.
which
I guess the thought is that Brunson's a good enough shooter that he can play off ball, but the problem is when he's on the floor and Luke is not, he's way better than Spencer Dinwiddie right now. So I
Mhm.
just don't. It's Josh said it as like the most shocking. My word for it would have been head scratching. Like it was just very like I see what you're doing, but I don't understand it moment. And that was like the one where we're like, what the heck, man?
Yep.
So, are we done with losers already? Holy cow! Any more thoughts on any losers that we want to throw around? I had Kings fans. I had Adrian Wojnarowski who lost the trade breaking timeline. You know, Shams beat him. I think
Shams,
three or
yeah.
four or more extra. I think he beat him by four
Is it?
trades.
Are his
And
days done? Are Woj bombs over?
nah, Woj
I
just
know.
dude, free agency. He makes up for every
He's
bit of
probably
the
just really
swing.
busy.
Yeah, he'll be fine in free agency. But any other losers you guys can think of? Because I really struggled in the loser department here.
Just
Those
teams
were the
that maybe
three.
didn't make huge moves that could have really helped themselves and maybe added a piece like the Heat or the Bulls or the Knicks.
The Bulls
Guys
is a
right on
big one.
right on the fringe. I mean, they made enough off season moves and they're obviously started off really well. Besides injuries right now, so just teams that maybe just could have added a piece, but other than that, not really.
There really wasn't any panic button teams, right, Josh? Like there wasn't really any like
No,
major.
I would say, and I don't know maybe your thoughts on it, but I didn't like Portland's deadline. I thought Portland's moves were a bit questionable. I think that every move they made was like all right, we're finally giving up on it. We're going to go rebuild, but now they still have Damian Lillard and they say they're going to like build around him, but he's like 31, 32 years old and they've just gone for all these draft picks and young assets. And it's just Portland's kind of in a what are you doing spot.
He's got to go. He's got to go.
Mhm.
So I agree, but I'm just confused on how he does it now. Is it something he does in August, or is it something he lingers into the trade deadline next year? I genuinely think right now he wants to be there because he cut down every bit of rumor prior, on the USA Olympic stuff this offseason. But let's touch on Portland really quick before we go to winners because unfortunately I don't think they get brought up again if we're doing winners here after this. Because I agree with Josh. I'm not thrilled with any move. I do want to just. I am thrilled saying that I called the CJ to New Orleans deal. I just
Really?
want to. Yeah, I
Wow.
was very. That tweet went up the moment it happened. I was like, I
Nice.
was in the middle of still editing the show last week, and CJ got traded. I was really angry. But let's just recap really quick. CJ left to New Orleans for Josh Hart, Nikhil Alexander Walker, and a conglomerate of two, I believe, first round picks and a second. Pretty hefty asking price for CJ McCollum, if you ask me, at $30 million. And I believe they made one more deal that I am not seeing on my notes for just a second. They were included in
Alexander Walker went to Utah, and I think
correct.
Eagles went up to Portland.
Yeah, they were included in that four teamer with Bucks, Clippers, Kings, and Pistons. So yeah, they were active. I'm not sure. I think they're in that point where they're kind of like the Pelicans were a few years ago, where they're like, we don't know what we're doing yet. We have this Anthony Davis guy and a bunch of crap around him. And they're kind of like, we have this Damian Lillard guy, except he's 31, 32. We don't really know what to do with him. So it's kind of, yeah, I think they're still in limbo. I think they're still worth at least giving them a chance to figure
I
it out.
think this is the last sign that I mean, he's not going to be a Portland Trailblazer next year. So
I mean,
Portland fans should enjoy watching him play this season.
If he
him
even
and CJ
does.
were close, right? Him and CJ were pretty close, weren't they?
That
Mhm.
Instagram post was very emotional. Yes.
Yeah, so like that could be the final straw right there. I know he said he wants to stay, wants to probably win with CJ, but that's probably going to change a lot now.
To be clear, I don't think he's said anything. The Blazers say they want him to
Yeah,
stay, which
true.
is the part that makes this all weird. So
The Blazers are
I don't
not
know.
doing things that's though the Blazers' actions do not match that they want him to stay. However,
That's the
their
important part.
actions look like we're saying thanks, but we're gonna move on.
I mean, if he was having an MVP and didn't MVP type year, didn't get hurt, I bet things would be a lot different. But it's kind of like the Bradley Beal situation where he didn't have the greatest season before getting injured, and now the whole team's up for question. So I just really don't see him. It's gonna have to be an offseason move now, obviously with the trade deadline being done. But I think it's that trade. Josh Hart's a good piece back, but they're definitely rebuilding. I mean, they're not. They would have kept CJ otherwise, I think.
Lillard has 3 years left on his deal, I believe. I don't have it in front of me. That is a total, just do I remember that right guess. But what I will say is why I brought it up is the injury component of Damian. He obviously right now is not on track to play at all this season with the abdomen. They're really concerned about that. If you're the Trailblazers, you hope he comes in and makes a play-in push with that young roster around. I know it's not possible. It's for you're the Portland Trailblazers. You're hoping that Damian Lillard comes in and plays really, really well for the last 2 months of the season. For what it's worth, I don't think he even cares. I think he thinks he'll get a deal or a trade no matter what in that scenario. So if you're the Blazers in terms of capitalizing on value, you hope he plays and looks awesome after this abdomen injury because I think a lot of teams, especially with the point guard situation, the point guard landscape in the NBA right now, you have a lot of teams that really like their point guard, and I don't know many teams that would really like their point guard more if it was Damian Lillard at 32 and abdomen injury. So that's the part that's weird to me.
Yeah, the Lillard situation, he feels very much like a Los Angeles Lakers last ditch effort for LeBron's last year on his contract to try to make good on winning a championship. I just like it's so easy for me to see the Lakers overpaying for him in the offseason so they can put up those Lillard, LeBron, Anthony Davis graphics that'll only play like 6 games together total in the regular season before trying to make one last push before LeBron inevitably leaves at the end of the contract to go wherever Bronny's going.
Boy, are you optimistic today. Um,
Bron's going
I
wherever Bronny's going. So
correct. Yeah,
yeah,
that's not changing right now. He
yeah,
said that already.
yeah.
All right, let's go with winners because I think the Portland Trailblazers have had plenty until the offseason. We will probably spend many, many minutes on them in a few months. So, uh, Tyler, let's get the biggest winner of the trade deadline.
Ooh, the biggest winner. That's a tough one. I got a couple thoughts about it, and I think I could go to the Celtics, but I don't think they're the biggest winner, and I'm not going to be biased about them. So I'm going to go a little bit different and say Daryl Morey, just because I don't know if the 76 are the biggest winner because Harden's so questionable and he's been on 3 teams in however many years. But Daryl Morey, a lot of people were saying he should have traded Simmons in the offseason, or he should have, they really let that situation go longer than most people thought. And he got James Harden, the guy he always wanted, a guy who Embiid obviously wants, and somebody who he's an MVP. So I think that Daryl Morey is probably the biggest winner. While I'm not sure the Sixers are the overall biggest winner of the traded line, I do like what Morey did and how he was patient and got his guy.
Josh, I have a lovely question that will just turn this segment upside down. Can I ask this first? Is Daryl Morey the greatest GM in the last 20 years?
Yikes. No
That's,
comment.
that's
How
my
many championships has he won?
I have two
Yes.
questions, and that was one of them. I was hoping
How many
someone
is
else would
it
ask something
that many
else.
championships?
Yeah.
Yeah, 0. So the answer is no, right? That we're moving
No.
on. Is that it? Okay. It's at least worth mentioning the fact that he just traded for James Harden after Harden's debacle. Like it's mind blowing. Obviously, it's a scenario where both teams win the trade. I think that's the weirdest part about it is I think there's a lot of trades this offseason or this deadline that we could talk about and go, I feel like both sides kind of did well. This one, as much as I don't like either side of it, I do think both ultimately got what they wanted. That was even what, and the awkward all-star draft that KD and LeBron did, where the KD was very pertinent on not talking, but they got what they wanted. Both teams got what they wanted, and Simmons is already showing up to shoot-arounds, and Kevin Durant's welcoming him with open arms. Clearly, there's a little bit of a relationship there, lost a little bit with him and James, I think. Katie stuck it out with Kyrie. I mean, there's just too many things to talk about here that's intriguing, but I'm happy for both
But just
sides.
to kind of piggyback off that, so the Nets are definitely in a winner. The couple things to think of with Ben Simmons, I do think they threw him under the bus, Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid. I think no matter how much that loss hurt in the playoffs against the Hawks, you just can't say that about your player because the media is going to blow it up no matter what, and you gave him a really good quote to blow it up on. So I really do feel for Simmons in that way. I've never seen a player sit out and throw away millions. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is his mental health, and he's going to the Nets. There's going to be some scrutiny with KD and Kyrie. I mean, they're not the Knicks; they don't get that much scrutiny, but they get a lot. It's still New York, so that's a big media town that he's going to have to perform in. It's not like he's going to Portland, where a lot of people want him to go, or Sacramento, where he could just chill and be the leader, and you lose some games and just kind of get used to things. He's in New York, so I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. Although I do agree it was a win-win for both sides, and I'm excited to see the Nets and Sixers potentially in the playoffs. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of this. I think that honestly, I think Philly was a big winner to me because, or Daryl Morey, as Tyler said, because he kind of pulled a trade that shouldn't have happened. It's only a trade that happened because of his personal relationship with James Harden and convincing him basically to leave Brooklyn. And at the end of the day, I think like in an open market situation, Brooklyn probably could have gotten more for James Harden, but this was him asking to leave and asking to leave to go to one place, and Brooklyn kind of had to work out, get what you can, and I think they did a good job for that. But yeah, I mean, I said last week that no trade was happening because I said Brooklyn would not be stupid enough to throw away the championship trio they had. I was right in that Brooklyn did not throw away the championship trio they had. It's just one of those guys decided he was going to walk out and head down to Philadelphia.
And Simmons does fit. He's a decent fit, just getting those two guys the ball. So I mean, Harden was a ball stopper too. So we'll see how that goes.
Harden became a ball stopper because he didn't like it. I think that's the interesting angle there is the fact that Josh, I mean, you can make that prediction. It's not a bad prediction 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, even a month and a half ago. Harden wanted to be there up until about a month ago, I think. I don't think any of us knew that. I think that was pretty well swept under the rug. I think that's a really interesting thing to think about. One angle that I do like about the Simmons thing, where you mentioned, Tyler, that he's got the scrutiny of New York. Of course he's got the scrutiny of New York. It's New York. I do love the fact that he's the third biggest story on that team, though. You have Kevin Durant, who's always going to face scrutiny number one from New York media. You have Kyrie Irving, who literally can't play in New York. That's a big enough story as no.
Don't get me started on Kyrie. Don't get me started on Kyrie.
And then I forgot. Yeah, well, look, you haven't brought up your Celtics yet, and I applaud you for it. I was going to ask you a Celtics, 2-minute, dissertation at the end. So, and then the third part about it, Simmons is the third biggest storyline on that team right this moment, or not storyline, but like third biggest responsibility aspect here. So I like it for that reason. I think obviously best case scenario, he goes off to some, random team somewhere that he can just stink it up. But I think he's going to be a lot better than people anticipate. This is the same Ben Simmons that, was basically defensive player of the year, except for Rudy Gobert's been, the best defender in the last 10 years. Otherwise, you're getting a guy who at some point, has the potential to be a top 30 player. So Simmons is obviously not a bad player. We just haven't seen the best of him in the last year and a half. So any other thoughts from either of you guys on this trade necessarily, the pieces around it? Obviously, we didn't touch on the fact that Seth Curry is a huge piece for Brooklyn. Andre Drummond, I'm not, over the moon about. Obviously, there's some pick aspects there. But realistically, I mean, it is what it is. It's Simmons for Harden and some stuff that Brooklyn got back.
Is Philly a or the favorite in the Eastern Conference now? So I feel like this whole move kind of blows up the East race a bit.
Yeah, I think it's still the Nets, but I could be wrong.
Are you talking about favorite in terms of, are you asking
betting?
Is that your opinion? Betting wise,
I was like, who do you
still
think is the favorite to win?
So I'll just ask the question now. I was going to ask you both this. Does the trade deadline change your finals predictions? By the way, Josh and I had Lakers Nets preseason. So both of us.
Yeah.
So right now, what is like, does the trade deadline impact who you thought was going to win anything or win it all?
Yeah.
As far as win it all, I think the Nets and Sixers are really close. I still kind of lean towards the Bucks just because of their experience and Giannis. But I think the Sixers and Nets and the Heat are definitely all teams you have to look out for. I'll throw the Celtics in there too for the East. But if I had to pick the team out of the East, I know betting odds says the Nets, but I just don't trust them to stay healthy, the Sixers and the Nets. So I'm going to go with the Bucks. That's my team from the East.
That's where I was shifting, Josh. I was going to give you my midseason, like after the All-Star break, we were going to go through our like midseason championship swap change there. Really quickly, who do you have in the West, Tyler?
At first it was the Suns, but I got a soft spot for Steph Curry and the Warriors. So I think with Clay back, they're struggling right now, or they were struggling for a little while. But I'll go Warriors. I really liked that team, and again, experience. I mean, this is a crazy year, just like last year and the year before with COVID. So it's really one of those years that anything could happen, and a team like the Suns last year could sneak in. But give me the Warriors if I'm a betting man.
All right, Josh. Finals predictions halfway through the year, since we'll skip it on post All-Star break.
Oh,
We'll go ahead and do it now.
Sadly, I think mine are really boring right now, and that I think it's the first place team in each conference. I go back and forth every day between Phoenix and Golden State. I'm leaning a little bit more Phoenix now. I think they look better than they did last year at this point. The East is a crapshoot right now. I'm just going to go with Miami because defense wins championships and say that they can tough it out down the stretch. But I think who could win the East like shifts between 6 different teams right now. So it's all wide open there.
5 to 6 headed monster. Let's go with Josh. Let's get your biggest winner.
This is probably not my biggest winner, but I'm just gonna push things forward so we can talk about a different trade. If I was naming another big winner, I think I would probably go with the Pacers getting their big rebuild, but we've kind of already talked about the Pacers trades here. I do think the Pacers were a big winner. They did what they wanted to do, and they've got a good future looking several years down the road. But I want to talk about how the Charlotte Hornets managed to add a potentially starting piece here in the future for nothing. Nothing at all, really. The Hornets traded Ish Smith and Vernon Carey Jr. in a second-round pick for Montrezl Harrell because Washington needed to clear space to bring in Kristaps Porzingis. And so far, Montrezl Harrell has looked better than a lot of other Hornets players because he's seamlessly fit in alongside his friend and college teammate Terry Rozier. He's also a Carolina guy, being from Tarboro. And I mean, everything about the Harrell thing is just a win for the Hornets. They needed to make a move. He's not exactly the tall rim defender you wanted, but he's probably a better defender than most guys out on the court. So it's a big help.
Look, no disrespect to actually, before I even say that, I'm going to say, Josh, that our chemistry over the last year and a half doing this podcast is impeccable. I'm going to read you exactly what I had for the Hornets. Other than the fact that Harrell is a 6'7" big man, he is exactly what the Hornets needed and gave up basically nothing for him.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're on the same page about this. Clearly, I mean, no disrespect to Ish Smith. The Wizards just absolutely adore him, and they got him back for a second time in his career. Might even be a third time. I feel like I have this memory of Ish Smith on the Wizards like 7 years ago. Either way, Ish Smith, and I mean, regardless of who you gave up, Vernon Carey, obviously that hurts a little bit for your depth long term if you think you can develop him. But what I think
He
is
never
crazy,
played anyway.
correct. What I think is crazy is you did this deal to get a guy like Harrell, who, by the way, I think is slept on, and you didn't give up one of PJ Washington, Kelly Oubre, or both. That's the crazy thing to me. That gives the Hornets this versatility to make this huge playoff push. That 6 seed that you had this confidence with in January, Josh, that they can do it. Like, this Harrell thing is huge. Obviously 6'7", I get it. He's not a prototypical center, but he can play defensively really, really hard. So I'm really over the moon about this move. I'm glad you brought it up.
I mean, how tall was
Tyler?
How tall was Ben Wallace? Was he 6'7" too?
I like the. I get where you're going with
He was
it.
6'8".
6'9". No, he's 6'9".
I like where you're going with it, but 3-time defensive player of the year and
Yeah,
Montrezl Harrell.
tough guy. But I agree exactly
like
what you
it.
said. When you were talking, I was like, it's exactly what they needed. Exactly what Carolina needed. Charlotte, I should say. So I really do like the move, and they didn't give up much at all. I do have one quick question since we're on the Hornets. I know this is kind of a year or two ago, but who did you guys want in the draft, the Melo draft? Were you guys day one pumped for Melo, or who did you want,
Josh,
Wiseman, or what?
From the draft lottery,
I need to know.
LaMelo Ball the whole way.
You wanted
From
Melo
the
the whole
draft
way.
lottery, I wanted LaMelo Ball out of those 3 guys the whole way, and it worked out.
Okay, because you could just say that now, and because it would be an
No,
awesome.
No,
thing.
it was.
I believe
it
you.
was.
That's why I wanted to jump in and really quick before Josh said anything, because I wanted to be clear to Tyler if we didn't say this. Josh is a Hornets fan and has been since the Bobcats in 05.
I could tell.
So this was a very clear cut. Like, yeah, I was shocked. And Josh and I have been friends since we were in like 4th, 5th grade. If you had told me 5 years ago in the peak of the ball, the Facebook Live days when they did their, Ball Brothers TV show, whatever, right? If you had told me that Josh, of all of my friends who I now do a podcast with and trying to build a sports media community with, if you had told me he if you had told me that he wanted LaMelo Ball of all people 5 years ago, I'd have been like, there's no way. I don't believe it. You took my Josh. I don't know who it is. Like, I just wouldn't have believed it. So
I had my doubts
it's
too.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Who
It
refresh my
just
memory?
the
He
year
was
leading up to LaMelo's draft, kind of as ESPN like actually started, because there was like a period of time where he kind of disappeared after I think he and LiAngelo left that Slovenian pro team
Yeah.
that they were at for no reason. He kind of disappeared from the media a little bit. And then they started to kind of pick him back up. Oh, he's in the NBL, in the National Basketball League. And he
Yeah.
was there, and RJ Hampton was there. The big difference was RJ Hampton, who was hyped as this big prospect, was averaging, I think, like 2.5 points per game,
Barely playing.
1 assist,
Yep.
1 rebound or something. Then there's LaMelo, who's averaging 19.5 points, like 7 or 8 assists, just really going after these pro guys. And I'm like, this kid is insane. And so I just kind of knew, like, right off the bat, once the Hornets win the draft lottery, which I had a incredible, well, not win, but got third, had an incredible reaction to. I was like, I really hope it's LaMelo Ball, that people don't realize what they could get here.
I'll just be short on this. I obviously looking back, I was a little higher on Wiseman than probably I should have been. I think situational fit for him was unfortunate, but yeah, I think pure talent wise, I wasn't like LaMelo should go number one, but I think he was a great fit for Charlotte. I'm not a Charlotte Hornets fan by any means, but I think he was the perfect out of those three guys in the top three. I think they all went to the right place minus James Wiseman. I think they, he could have went anywhere and maybe struggled a little bit. So it was
Yep.
very raw. So
I had to know though, because I don't want to burst your bubble, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if he left after his contract's up. I don't know if I don't know. He's playing well there, but he's kind of
God, we hope
unpredictable.
not.
Yeah, I would
The
I would
way
like
I
to see him
can
stay.
tell, I don't know about what LeVar is going to do. Like, he's the wild card that's a little terrifying. But
100%.
the thing that I hope for with LaMelo Ball, one of the big things is going to be this offseason and giving Miles Bridges that big contract.
Yep.
If they give Bridges that contract and he's staying, those two are so close. I just don't see LaMelo
They're
walking off.
they are peanut butter and jelly.
They are together all the time. All the time.
My favorite video was the one, Josh, I sent it to you. I think it was when he won Rookie of the Year, right? It was the one where they revealed his award, and it was like hiding behind some jerseys in the pro shop, and Miles comes in, and of course they post the edited version where like he bleeps out every word he said, but it was absolutely hysterical, the reaction of those two. Miles was the guy to break it to him, not anyone else, so it was really cool.
Yep.
All right, winner for me, I'm going to give you two, because I'm going to explain one. It's only going to be 2 seconds on one of them. The winner is the NBA fans and NBA Twitter. 100%. This trade deadline was probably, and my other question, the reason I asked this is, or say this is, was this the greatest NBA trade deadline ever?
Best in recent memory for me. I don't remember anything like this in a while.
Yeah, because a lot of them, we get that build up and then it's just a letdown. It's just a huge letdown, and this wasn't. And that's the NBA today. So yeah, it's one of the best in recent memory for sure.
Really interesting article. I haven't given homework in a while, Josh, so I'm going to do that now. Really interesting article I'll leave in the description of this episode when it goes up, and Tyler, I'll send it to you as well. I looked back through, because I was doing trivia for Josh last week, trying to figure out an NBA trade deadline question, and I went back through every one of them back to 87 when they started keeping records of it, and this is the best trade deadline in terms of star value, in terms of the potential of the trades, like in terms of just every aspect you would like about the trade deadline. It was just, lo and behold, the best one by far, in terms of, obviously I wasn't alive for 15 to 20 of those, but just in terms of what that meant on paper, it's not even close. This is the best one. I just figured I was probably correct on that. So congrats to NBA fans for that. My actual biggest winner in this trade, or in this scenario, and you guys are probably going to be like, what in the world, is every team in that 4-team trade. Because I think we've gone over all the big ones. We've gone over all the ones. Obviously, I had to come up with something different because you two took the Hornets and the Harden thing from me. So we're going to go with what I think genuinely is the best trade in terms of who, when I say all winners across the board, I think every team won this trade. It was the 4-teamer. I'm going to recap it really quickly. The Bucks get Serge Ibaka, 2 picks and cash considerations. Doesn't matter where the stuff is from, essentially. But they got Serge Ibaka. The Clippers got Rodney Hood, Olajiye. I always mess his name up. And Vanja, I'm not even going to say his name. I don't think he
Semi
has a
Ojale, I think.
Thank you. I think that's probably right.
Yeah.
The Kings get Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Jackson, Trey Lyles, and a second-round pick, and then the Pistons get Marvin Bagley. Now, before you two react to why I just went over a four-team trade with basically eighth men on rosters, I think it has implications for every single, at least one player in every single one of those situations. I absolutely am, and Marvin Bagley obviously had to leave Sacramento. We've talked about Sacramento enough. I think people overlooked the fact that he left. I think the Pistons was literally the best place he could have ended up, with a leader like Cade Cunningham, with a place where he'll be able to play, a place where he'll be able to develop and not have to worry about any just hiccups along the way. He'll just be able to play and get back to being a better player that we, at one point, was a top 2 pick. The Kings get Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Jackson. They essentially unload, but they get 2 guys, Josh Jackson, Trey Lyles. They really can't win this deal, but they got a second-round pick as well. They were pretty much the biggest in that one. The Clippers get a Rodney Hood contract that is. Go ahead, Josh.
DiVincenzo is a good pickup for Sacramento. I think that's
In
a
my
it's a
head,
good
in my head,
spot.
he's older than I obviously think he is. Like he's
Yeah.
probably in that
That's
20
I think that's a
range,
good
but
grab.
He's got to
for
find his
Sacramento.
shot. He's got to find his shot back. That'll be all right.
obviously the Bucks were willing to expend him. That's part of the issue there. I don't think people realized he was in that deal at first, but yeah, no, I think in my head he's older than he is, and he's not. He's in that 25 range, I believe. But yeah, the Clippers get, I mean, they get him as well. The Clippers get Rodney Hood and Semi, who I believe, if I'm correct, both of them are under contract through at least next year. Which, if you're the Clippers, that's what you're doing deals for right now. Especially with the Norman Powell injury, this is new news to everyone who's listening to this podcast. As of yesterday, Norman Powell fractured his foot, so he'll be out at least 4 weeks. I think they just let him ride the bench the rest of the year, let him get healthy, maybe bring him back in that April play-in push just to get him comfortable again for the game speed. But anyway, the Clippers are out of Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell, and Paul George right now. So any guy you can secure for next year's championship run is a great deal. And then the Bucks got the best player in this trade. Serge Ibaka the last month has been awesome, and I don't think he's been noticed because of that, because he came from the Clippers, who have been kind of in Tank Alley for a little bit. This trade was awesome for all four players and teams involved, and I just think it's just an awesome move all around.
Very even across the board. Definitely.
I'm sure you guys don't have many thoughts on a 4-team deal that involved Serge Ibaka, so it just deserved being recognized.
I mean, it's just another one of those where I look back at it and I think, man, the Bucks have just made another really shrewd play at the deadline and made their team even more terrifying heading into the playoffs.
They gave up basically nothing because they can play the Pat Connaughton piece there instead of DiVincenzo. Very similar style player. Obviously, Connaughton's a better defender. But the Bucks, yeah, they basically get their PJ Tucker, who helped win them a championship. Shout out PJ Tucker from Raleigh. But Serge Ibaka has been awesome. He's not the Serge Ibaka of, the last 6 years, but he's still Serge Ibaka. He can still be a great championship defender in like a defensive lineup in your like third and fourth quarter rotations. If you're the Bucks, who's probably going to be in that position. I guess either of you guys, any thoughts? We didn't go over I'll ask that question for him in just a moment. We went over basically every major marquee deal. Torrey Craig and Aaron Holiday went to the Suns for basically nothing. The Dragic thing was really weird. But the Dragic thing, he's probably going to get bought out. As of Monday the 14th, recording this, he hasn't been bought out. He went from Toronto to San Antonio. I'm shocked he didn't really get as much value as he was probably worth. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's it. We hit on everything. So let's end with this. There's really nothing else. Let's end with this. Tyler, I want whatever Celtics thoughts you need to get out of your head. Maybe you've been stir crazy today and wanted to get them out, or just anything you've wanted to put out for many of the listeners.
Yeah, no, this is the longest I've gone on a podcast without talking about the Celtics, so I'm definitely proud of myself.
Love it.
Yeah, so I'm a big draft guy. I do mock drafts. I really scout the players as much as possible. I really enjoy that part of the game. And the last 2 years, my Celtics have traded away their first round picks in deals where I didn't feel like they had to, but they wanted to get off the Kemba contract, so it was kind of necessary. And they got Derek White. So my initial thought was, I really wish we could have kept that pick. I really like the draft pick. However, they're on an 8-game winning streak, and I do like Derek White quite a bit. I think he brings two things they really will value a lot, and that's playmaking and defense. And I think he has an underrated shot. He's kind of been down a little bit this year, but overall an underrated shot. So I think he's going to play some point guard for us for sure. And I think when he was with the Spurs, he was kind of a 2 guard. He's a combo guard, but DeJounte Murray is more of that playmaker. So we're going to put him in this role. and let him have the ball a lot and feed the Jays. And I really believe he's going to be a really good playmaker for us, and he's obviously a great defender. I just wish we could have kept that pick, and then we sent the 2028 number one protected swap pick too. It's just, I don't know. Brad Stevens just doesn't really like the draft, obviously, because he's been a GM for less than a year, however it's been, and he's just like, get rid of those draft picks. But in a wide open East, potentially with injuries and COVID, might as well go for it.
I will say quickly before Josh weighs in here, I do like the fact that he's opening up money. That's been like the one thing he's been pertinent to do so far.
100%.
He clearly thinks he can sign someone this offseason. It's a very quick turnaround if that is, obviously, and you got to think with the strategic play there. Are you 100% sure you want to have Brown and Tatum again after this year? So he's got a lot of interesting things he needs to really discuss with himself and the front office there, the rest of the front office. They're going to have to just really catch somebody wrong this year. I'm not like obviously that high on them as a fan would be, but when you have two top level guys, I mean, you can beat anybody on any given night. So yeah, the Celtics are going to be a very interesting piece. I think if they get in like the 7 range, the 6 range, I think they're going to be really scary.
Which I hope they do, and they get the defense. They don't. I don't think they're gonna be able to guard Kevin Durant and Kyrie in a series 7 games and win it. But Smart and White in the backcourt at the end of the game on defense, that's kind of tough.
Yeah, I think as much as I have in the past ragged on the Celtics, I really like the move that they did make here. They're kind of they could be that giant killer in the back of the East. I don't know, giant killer if there is anyone that's considered the Giants in the Eastern Conference, but if you're one of the top 4 seeded teams, the team you're trying to avoid in your first round matchup is Boston right now. So they're definitely they're going to play spoiler in the playoffs, and maybe they do that well enough to make the run to the Eastern Conference Finals. You know what I mean?
They've done it before, surprisingly, and so they've been kind of 500 team the last 2 years. But I think they have good core players right now, and I only said it's a wide open East only because it's only wide open if COVID affects it or injuries. Otherwise, it's the Bucks, the Nets, and the Sixers probably top 3, especially in the playoffs at least.
All right. Lastly, did Jaylen Brown deserve to be an All-Star? If so, for who?
Yeah, I think he did. I think they just try to spread the wealth a little bit, but he should have been one for LaMelo.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
that's okay. I said that.
I had to say it. I don't mean it, but I had to say it.
It's fine. I've said that Miles Bridges should have been an All-Star instead of LaMelo because he's had a better year. So.
Yeah,
which is true.
Yeah, Miles has had a better year. But.
All right, we do this thing called a shameless plug on the way out for all of our guests. Obviously, we can shameless plug it all we want in the description of the episodes and the social medias and stuff. But people who are listening are going to hear this 30-second shameless plug on your way out.
Yeah, at Tyler James NBA on everything. I do have some websites up, but that's kind of where I post all my content. I'm even on TikTok, but I'm not dancing or anything, so don't worry about that. It's strictly NBA videos. I'm not trying to dance any hip hop or anything like that, so you won't have to see that. It's strictly NBA videos. But yeah, at Tyler James NBA across the board.
Thank you for coming on, and we appreciate your time.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tyler. All right. It was great having Tyler on. So now we get to everyone's favorite segment of the week, trivia. Trevor is down 11-4. He was only down 6 points a couple weeks ago, and now he's down 7 because last week didn't go as well. But Trevor should get 1 point this week at the very minimum. Getting 1 point. I'm really trying to make this as interesting as possible as we go down the stretch, but there's a chance for 4 points today. So this trivia is about James Harden, kind of.
Oh,
James
okay.
Harden this past week at the trade deadline was traded for the 3rd time in his NBA career. It's kind of unprecedented for an MVP. He's been traded 3 different times. I don't know how. Can you name another MVP off the top of your head right now that's been traded 3 times?
Yeah, Russell Westbrook in the last 2 years.
That's a good point.
Yeah. that was immediately what I thought of. That's a good one. Yeah. Otherwise, no. These 2 were kind of poster childs for that.
And then maybe Shaq got traded twice, but
Moses Malone won 3 MVPs, and he won 2 of them with 2 different teams back to back. I think he was traded
Yeah.
3 times. That's a weird one.
Traded. It's very weird thing.
Unusual.
So what we're gonna play is how well do you remember the James Harden trades
Oh, jeez.
based on the players that were traded in exchange for James Harden? Combined across the 3 James Harden trades, 8 players were sent to the team that was trading Harden away. So 8 players were sent in exchange for James Harden. For every 2 of them that you name correctly, I will give you a point. There are 8 of them. You'll get 10 guesses. You can get 2 wrong. If you can name, for every 2 of them that you get correct, that was sent in exchange for Harden. Now, no one that was sent with him. Nobody sent with Harden. Not any picks. Players that were traded in exchange for James Harden over his career, over the 3 trades. Does that make sense?
Yes, I believe it does.
All right. I've got the 8 players written down in my notes app here on my phone. And
that includes this year, right?
yes.
All right. Well, thank you for the freebie. Seth Curry and Andre Drummond were on the other end of that deal. So
that is correct. That's 2. That's 1 point. So it's 11-5.
I believe that was it. I think it was those 2 and a couple of picks. I'm going to get a couple out of the way that I'm 99% sure about, and that's Karis LeVert.
Eh.
I'm talking about the 4-teamer with Indiana. Are you talking about 2 Houston? Like anytime it was 2, because they were involved.
The player that went, okay, I'll let that go because we'll clarify. Not players that were involved in the trade. They had to go to the team that was sending James Harden away. Okay, what did you trade to get James Harden?
I'm getting 1 point. So,
just someone that was tangentially in the deal.
Victor Oladipo.
That's correct.
Victor Oladipo. Got it. And then this is the only one I have left because I don't think I know the others. Who else went to Houston? That's the problem. Oh, gosh. See, they took a bunch of picks, but, like, who was the salary filler there? Because they did a 4-teamer to make the salary work. Oh, jeez. I'm trying to think of Oklahoma City. Kevin Martin is the other name that came to my mind.
Kmart, yes.
All right. That's correct. It. I'm done. I'll take my 2 points and I'm walking home.
You don't want to name anymore.
Nope, that's all I have. Because if you're
tricking me with, I would keep going. I'd keep because you can get more wrong. I would keep going. You've got 2 points. It's 11-6. Please keep going.
If you're giving me the
please keep going.
Oh, is there one I'm forgetting? Oh, jeez, there's got to be one I'm forgetting. Yeah. Oh no. Okay, so this year I got already. I'm out of the way with that one. See the 4-teamer thing that's killing me. They got back a pick that eventually was Jalen Green. Is that correct? No. No. See, that's what the part I'm trying to think of the roster right this moment. Who the heck was in that deal? They basically took salary filler. I thought. You're probably laughing at me. He got traded to Houston from OKC, the Daryl Morey situation. But I don't feel like Houston had to give up a ton. The problem is I understand where you're going with this. I'm hitting this wall and I don't know. I can't think of it. Oh, brother. Man, I am disappointed in myself. Hey, look, you know what? I'm actually not though. I got 4.
You get 6 more guesses, so to get 4.
Was Kelly Olynyk in there somewhere?
No.
Okay. That one's being ruled out. Let's see. See, the Oklahoma City one, I'm really having to pull back. Grayson's so disappointed in me right now. I can just hear him.
He's disappointed in you. I don't know if it has to do with Oklahoma City.
Who was the Brooklyn? Because LeVert went other places. Jared Allen went to Cleveland. That's the 2 Brooklyn pieces. But Miami, who did Miami send? Oh, no. Oh, goodness, Josh. Thabo Sefolosha.
Incorrect.
Yeah, it's just a Thunder player I could think of.
I believe Thabo played with James in OKC.
Yeah, he did. I thought maybe he was in that. Stupid me. All right. I have 3 guesses left, hopefully.
4.
Unfortunately, 4. Okay. Miami moved someone. They got Victor, and that was kind of this shocking point. And we did this trade. The thing is, we did this trade. We literally did our one and only emergency pod so far, which, if the trade deadline wasn't on a Thursday, we probably should have done one for Harden this time. But I feel like, oh my goodness, Josh. Okay. LeVert goes to Indiana. Allen goes to Cleveland. Oladipo goes
You already got
Miami.
Oladipo right in this. Oladipo went to Houston in that trade
Well, yeah, okay, I got that side. I got
because
that.
you already got that
I
part
got
right.
those
He went
confused.
from Indiana to Houston.
I just don't. That means Miami sent. Oh, that means Miami sent someone, and they eventually. Hold on, wait. So hold on. Oladipo ended up in Houston, is what you're saying? Correct.
Hmm.
He did his 2 minutes
That's
there.
why your Oladipo guess was correct.
I don't know. I really, I like. I feel like I'm hitting this wall where I should be really disappointed in myself, and I think I am based on your feedback. So
I
I'm gonna
don't
ask
think
for.
you'll get two more. I think you'd probably be disappointed in not getting one of these, but you probably won't score any more
All
points.
right, I'll give one more guess, and I'll ask for a small hint. Rondé Hollis Jefferson.
Incorrect.
Okay. One, just give me a hint. Don't give me anything close to that guy. Just give me something. Like, give me like a bone that'll kind of, because I'm not gonna get a point
You're
now.
missing players in all three trades so far.
Oh my God, there was a guy this year. Who am I forgetting? Oh jeez, I just had it in front of me. Seth Andre. Oh my God, I'm an idiot.
This is so bad.
Ben Simmons. I'm an idiot.
Yes. I
People, I
was
swear
dying
this.
because you were just gonna walk right past Ben Simmons.
People, I swear, this is not on purpose. I genuinely forgot that Ben was in that because I was so focused on the Harden piece. That's the problem. All right, I think that's it because that unfortunately, unless I get another random bozo, like I think like that was the not random bozo guy, right? That's what you were saying. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's just gonna be long shot guesses.
You have two guesses. If you get one more, you'd get a third point and make it 11-7.
How many more players in the four teamer were going to Houston in that? That's my
Two.
question. Wow. Okay, so the salary filler worked. Oh gosh, are any of those guys on the team now? That's the problem. I don't know.
No,
Oh, that's even
I don't
worse.
believe so, at least.
Mm, tough toenails. Because Christian Wood was already a Rocket. This is not a guess. Christian Wood was already a Rocket. So, or he was, no, he was from Detroit. Sorry. Man. So neither of them were. Eric Gordon stuck around. Why do I feel like.
So both players that in that trade to Houston are no longer in the NBA.
Oh, brother.
The player that was in that OKC Houston trade that you haven't gotten is in the NBA still.
That's just lovely. that's just, that's awesome. Um, Quinn Cook.
No.
Didn't think so. All right, I officially can't get another point. Thank you
No,
for.
you can if you get one more. Like you have one guess and
All
need
right.
one person.
Oh, brother. I cannot think of.
Name an NBA player that used to be a Rocket and a member of the Thunder, or used to be a Net and a member of the Rockets, or maybe not even, but used to be a Rocket.
I was gonna say the net kind of helped, unless that was an accidental hint. I don't know.
I don't know if necessarily. I know one of them was a Net and then was a Rocket. I don't know about the other.
Try
But
to
the
think
thing
of
is,
a
you're looking at like
defender.
those Nets years, guys from the Nets years when they were like 7 and 75 or
They were
something like
bad.
that.
Was somehow Theo Pinson involved in that trade? Was he a Brooklyn to Houston? Was he like a
Is that a guess?
salary filler? Yeah, Theo Pinson.
No.
Imagine that was right, dude. I'd have retired right now.
Okay,
All right,
so
with the
we'll
band-aid
kind of
off.
go reverse chronological order. The three players sent in the most recent trade: Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond. Thankfully, you got all of those.
Two picks,
Um,
yay.
the players that Houston got in return for James Harden, um, most of this obviously was in picks, were Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, and
No,
Rodions Karush.
no shot
Yeah, they no
whatsoever.
longer, Exum and Karush, after checking, are no longer in the NBA. Exum plays for BC Barcelona in Spain, and Karush is playing somewhere, I think, in Latvia, in his home country.
Crush is good. He was good. People don't realize the Exum thing is a hard fall for
Karush
people.
was the one that was a net that went to
Yeah,
Houston in
yeah, I
those
wasn't
bad
getting that.
years for
Wasn't getting either of
the
those
Nets.
guys.
And OKC, the two players they received in exchange for James Harden, there obviously was a lot of picks, were Kevin Martin and Jeremy Lamb.
See, I have this vague memory of Jeremy Lamb as a Rocket, but don't have him a vague memory of him as a Thunder. That's the problem.
Really? Yeah, I
Yeah,
always remember as a member of the Thunder.
I don't. I have that weird
Well, you
Rocket.
got 2 points, 11-6.
Yay!
And Josh gets a chance for 4 next week. Just make it hard. Just make it hard for me to get it and start tightening this thing up.
All right. Well, that was awesome. I should I be more excited? I feel like I should be. That was
A little
fun.
disappointed that it took so long to get Ben Simmons, but
Hey, got to make trivia more entertaining. So, really quickly on the way out to at 2 Pointers on Twitter, at facebook.com/2 Pointers podcast, and then TikTok and Instagram are both at the 2 Pointers podcast. I also just want to mention that a lot of fun things are coming up. The All-Star game, as you guys will hear this, will be 5 days or 4 days away from Wednesday there. All-Star weekend's going to be awesome. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Josh and I are watching every
going on
second
this
of
weekend.
it.
Forgot about
Oh
that.
yeah, watching every second of it, or at least trying to make sure we watch as much of it and then catch up on it as possible to have a great Monday. Basically, previewing the All Star game and any other small college
Reviewing the All-Star game.
preview. Oh my
Review.
gosh, review. Sorry, did I say preview? Whatever. Reviewing the All Star game, recapping, whatever it may be. Following the week after that, we will be doing. Oh my gosh, is that the that'll be whatever happens. I don't know. We'll play that by ear news wise. I have to realize there's a week between there. After that, we will be talking an entire college hoops or mostly college hoops show with hopefully a special guest coming on that week. That'll be Carolina Duke week, or that'll be Carolina Duke recap. That'll be college tournament preview, kinda. It'll be
Yeah.
a ACC, Big 12. Those championships will be that week. We'll cover that. Hopefully with a special guest. After that, tournament time. That's why I brought it up, because the NCAA tournament's in less than 5 weeks, Josh. That's the part that I really wanted to bring home.
Yeah, our tournament preview podcast will be not the next one, not the one after, but the third one from now.
Correct. 3 weeks from now. Which is awesome, because that's our favorite to record. We basically talk about 64 teams at some point. So
68.
68, that's right. Hope we can
make it.
skip those. But anyway, so it'll be a fun episode. March Madness is amazing, obviously. I'm just so thrilled for that to be there. And after that, it'll be the playoff push for the 2 Pointers podcast. It's probably the most fun time of the year, because it's really when storylines become storylines.
It's ramping up. I'm ready.
Josh, close us out.
All that being said, this has been the 2 Pointers podcast. I'm Josh.
And I have nothing clever to say. I'm Trevor.
And we will see you soon.